Well, hello there, and welcome in the aftermath of day one of the 2024 men's NCAA basketball tournament. As everything got underway with 16 games, I know we had a first four, but this is the true start of the tournament. And 16 games are now complete. We're on live on the college basketball coast-to-coast platforms with the program. I'm the somewhat capable host, TJ Rives. I've got Jason Powers, my wingman here. He's agreed to stay up late. It's been a long day, a lot of action, and we are, for a few minutes, going to go over everything that we have seen, some stunning upsets, some of the big names winning and having to hang on. Jason, good to have you. So much to go over. We have been waiting for about 30 minutes for the conclusion of the 16th and final game, which was Kansas, the fourth seed in the Midwest, against tiny Samford out of Alabama and the Southern Conference. And lo and behold, the win for Kansas came in the final minute after a huge lead was basically whittled down to a few points. Kansas survived. Kansas survived when Kentucky did not survive on this day. Anyway, Jason, welcome in as we're in the recap mode here.
Kansas survives by a very fortunate whistle at the end there on the block on the breakaway dunk, which looked like a clean block. Would have been a live ball transition play for Samford down one. So they would have had the ball in a kind of basically a 5-on-4 situation because the Kansas kid was down.
Yep.
What an ending that could have been on 5-on-4 in the last 10 seconds if that whistle's not blown for the block.
Again, full credit to Kansas for making the plays, but man, Samford hitting the 3-point shots, doing a tremendous job of pulling this one to within one score, to within three, and even down to one after being down double digits late in the game. Just tremendous. Yes. And as I said, I mean, here's what we're going to do. We're going to recap a little bit of Thursday, our thoughts, and then we're going to preview Friday. I mean, the big takeaway is the Oakland upset of Kentucky. So let's just go right there because Oakland put the game away. Oakland led the entire second half. Kentucky could only get within a score a couple of times, and Oakland put the game away. Jack Golke, the three-point shooter, was tremendous. Tiny Oakland University, northern Detroit suburb, slays Kentucky. Jason, give me some thoughts.
I mean, what a performance by Golke and the Trey Townsend. You saw this team about a week and a half ago up in Indianapolis. I mean, every time they needed a bucket, Townsend in the low post. I mean, he went over the Giants a couple times, a couple of very contested shots. Great job. And boy, Golke was unconscious there for a while in the second half to go, one off the all-time record of 10 3-pointers in the game. The guys only attempted 8 2-point shots all year. 8 attempts. Every other shot's been a 3-point shot.
And we saw him last week, as you mentioned, in that final with Milwaukee. He made 6 in the championship game. He had made 7 the night before. You have to know that in the scouting report. And Kentucky has been damaged on defense by almost everybody they've played all year long. We've talked about it for weeks on our coverage here on college basketball coast to coast and the platforms, on other shows and other outlets. We've talked about this. And time and again, Golke got open without them closing out on him or letting him shoot. He kept burning them. They finally made the adjustment at halftime and put Antonio Rives on him, my namesake, and basically said to him, do not leave him. Do not go help with anybody else. Keep your back to the rest of the play. Just stay with him to take him out of the game. But still, Oakland made enough plays. What a story. Greg Campy, the 40-year coach, in that tiny school. This is what the tournament is all about. Samford hanging in with Kansas, Oakland beating Kentucky. We saw Duquesne knock out at BYU earlier in the day. I know that seems like it was back on Wednesday, but it was earlier on Thursday. This is what the tournament is all about when these teams get an opportunity to go against the big boys.
Tremendous. That's exactly. This is why you don't want 95 teams in the tournament and every ninth place team in one of these big conferences. This is why these small conference champions deserve an opportunity. Everybody, say what you want. All 300 teams get an opportunity to make this tournament. Whether it's the A10, whether you're the 10th seed in the Southern Conference or the 12th seed in the A10, you got a chance to make this tournament, and you saw today why. And back to Kentucky, you kept commenting on me and you were communicating. what terrible possessions down the stretch by Kentucky. That just showed you the youth. And I will say this, the lack of X's and O coaching out of John Calipari tonight. It was not good.
And he said after the game, he's not going to change his philosophy of bringing in young players, freshmen one and dones. And the question really turns to, are they going to do anything with the lack of postseason success? Bounced in the first round of the SEC tournament a week ago by Texas A&M, now bounced by a 14 seed, 2 years removed from being bounced by a 15 seed. Jason, they have won one NCAA tournament game since 2019. They've won one SEC tournament game since 2019, and they're a boatload. And you were onto this, that after the Texas A&M loss, that if they somehow lost this game, they're a boatload of frustrated Kentucky boosters, fans, or whomever that maybe think this has gotten stale. It's a $34 million buyout. I mean, I know Kentucky's got the money, but that's just absurd. Thoughts here when Calipari is essentially drawing a line in the sand? I'm going to continue to go get the one and dones and the young players, et cetera, et cetera. And the young guys did not deliver, obviously.
I've been on this theme with you for 6 weeks now on this podcast. I thought if they bowed out early, we never thought Texas A&M would write Jimbo Fisher a check for $75 million either. They got the money in Lexington. They may not want to spend the money, but they got it up there. And I can promise you there'll be some soul searching the next couple of days in Lexington through that administration. There'll be some phone calls made to boosters. Hey, if they've not already been made, it wouldn't shock me if John Calipari's out at Kentucky.
And again, it may be a mutual thing. We don't know.
They may word it a certain way, but it wouldn't shock me.
Again, you're finding us here on college basketball coast to coast platforms. We're going over what went on Thursday. Let's just run through again. Duquesne, tremendous win for them. They've not won an NCAA tournament game in 55 years. They got it done with BYU earlier in the day. That's 111 seed that beat a 6 seed of the East Regional. Duquesne will now play Illinois, who got a big game from Terrence Shannon again. They moved through. Also in the bottom of that bracket, Iowa State was impressive with South Dakota State. Washington State gets an NCAA tournament win for the first time since 2008.
Great.
They're victorious over Drake tonight. So just a couple of thoughts on what we also saw North Carolina win impressively over Wagner. Arizona had some problems early with Long Beach State, but they rolled and
Tennessee
won by 20.
Played well.
Tennessee flat out blew away St. Peter's as the 15 seed. What Kentucky didn't do 2 years ago, say what you want about different team or whatever, St. Peter's, same school. Kentucky never let them have any hope at the beginning of that game. Just some thoughts off the buffet, whatever else you saw this afternoon and tonight for Thursday, Jason Powers.
I was surprised at the end of the first of all, I was surprised Drake kind of collapsed the way they did, and even more so the last 3-4 possessions of that game, Tucker DeVries wanted no part of the ball. He didn't take a shot. He almost like he was playing hot potato with the ball. Their best player. That was not a great ending. The way Drake was up 8, and how about Nevada up 17 with 7 minutes to go and vomit all over themselves?
What a meltdown in the loss to earlier tonight. I'm even blanking out on who it was that put them away. Dayton's had a tremendous season in the A-10, and they were on the verge of
17 with 7 minutes to go.
Whacked. But again, they made 3-point shots. Turnovers also hurt Nevada late in that game, and Dayton just took it from them. And again, this is what makes the tournament great, where teams like Dayton or like Oakland or like Samford or Duquesne, et cetera, get their opportunity and take advantage of it. Again, from the results, Gonzaga, very impressive tonight.
Yes.
A lot of people thought McNeese would give them problems.
They destroyed McNeese.
Much the same way as Tennessee. From the beginning of the game, they made their first 5 3-pointers. McNeese never really got within 10 points the rest of the first half. The lead swelled to like 15, 18 early in the second half. Mark Few and Gonzaga, my friend. Say a little more about them.
The one thing they don't have the sexiness this year of Timmy and some of the other guys they've had over the years, but from like January 15th They've been the most efficient offensive team in the country, and you saw that tonight. They were super efficient. They're good enough defensively. They're not tremendous, but they're good enough, and they still got players. Say what you want. They still got players, and they got a nice draw. Kansas on deck, a very beatable Kansas team, so wouldn't shock me if they beat Kansas at all, and they'll be a threat. They may not be able to beat Purdue potentially, but Gonzaga keeps getting it done, and not a good day for the Mountain West. Not a good day with Nevada, Colorado State, and Boise. Not a good day for the Mountain West.
Yeah, Colorado State only 11 points in the first half of the game with Texas. Again, Kansas will now meet Gonzaga on Saturday in the Midwest bracket. Oregon will play Creighton. That's something we talked about for those two games at the bottom of that draw. Tennessee, Texas is Rick Barnes against his old school. Oregon, Creighton is Dana Altman against his old school. And again, this is the same thing. Oregon tonight and NC State tonight are sitting here saying, hey, we had to play our way in, just like Duquesne. We had to play our way in and win the automatic bid. And Oregon wins the automatic bid at the Pac-12, and they were the better team beginning to end in that matchup with South Carolina. They put it on the Gamecocks tonight, this afternoon. And so Oregon now and Creighton, fascinating. Creighton's a lot of people's picks to come out of that Midwest bracket, so we'll see that on Saturday. Anything else strike you from Thursday that I have left out? Michigan State won the first game of the day. They'll play North Carolina. I think I mentioned every other team. Anything else from Thursday stand out in the results, Jason Powers, as we do this college basketball coast to coast kind of in the middle of the night, Thursday night, little Friday preview coming. If you're hearing us in podcast form, the streaming show on TuneIn, we're doing this live after everything has ended. Anything else stand out from Thursday?
Free throw shooting was a problem. Oakland was very fortunate. They did not shoot very well from the foul line and got through. Drake was dreadful from the foul line. They were like 5 of 14, and they were like top 30 in the country in free throw shooting going into this game. So that was a major factor in that game. And again, you make the point of the longer you let these 12 and 13 and 14 seeds hang around, the pressure builds in these arenas. The arenas want to see the little guy win, and you saw that in the Oakland, Kentucky game. I know there's a lot of Kentucky fans there, but it was loud every time Oakland made a play, buddy, in that game.
And again, Greg Kampe has been there 40 years. They win an NCAA tournament game tonight. Oakland had previously won some Division II tournament games, but they get an NCAA tournament win tonight for the Horizon League. Again, I got the privilege of working that title game last week. And for Julie Rowe Latch, the commissioner, she was sitting right there courtside. I saw her with a smile ear to ear. What a win for that league. Oakland previously had won one of the play-in games, the 65 versus 64 game in 2005 with Greg Kampe. They win now essentially a game in the field of 64 tonight with Kentucky, and it bears repeating again for the Wildcats. They had great wins at the end of the year at Auburn, at Tennessee. They beat Alabama at home, and now they let a 14 seed with a quarter or maybe even an eighth of the resources, NIL money, caliber of player.
A tenth.
I mean, maybe a tenth of that. They let a 14 seed get them tonight. And as crazy as it sounds, it is going to ratchet up on whether they come to some kind of agreement and say goodbye to John Calipari here for the money that he's making, or does he hold it off maybe for one more year to try to turn it around? Do you have a thought? I mean, going to the transfer portal to get older players. He kept talking after the game about everybody else has got older players. Well, honestly, whose fault is that you keep reloading with freshmen and young guys that take a while to gel and sometimes don't deliver?
And Jay Wright and Seth Davis made a great point. When you recruit all these freshmen, transfers don't want to come because they don't want to sit behind the freshmen. So it's harder to get older transfers when you have a roster full of freshmen. And again, Kentucky's two best players tonight were Rives and Mitchell, both transfers, older guys. And you saw the youth. Shepard was terrible tonight. I mean, Dillingham was forcing up shots. The only guy that was reliable was Rives and Mitchell, the older guys. And you've got to, I mean, you just can't roll out there with 18-year-old kids in these tournament settings.
That's the voice of Jason Powers, the host of the Powers on Sports podcast. JPO Sports is where you find him on Twitter. We appreciate him stopping by. here this evening with me for a few more moments. Again, we're breaking down what happened on Thursday. A reminder, by the way, if you're looking for tickets to any of the games, we are sponsored in part on college basketball coast to coast and the platforms by Ticket Smarter, the Ticket Smarter mobile app. You're going to get the best prices on the secondary market right now. They're going to beat anybody, anywhere, whether you're talking about the games tomorrow at the Barclays Center where UConn's going to be, Indianapolis where Purdue is going to be, or even in Memphis, Tennessee, my hometown, or Spokane, Washington, where all of Alabama and the teams are. Alabama, Auburn, and UAB are all in Spokane. Makes perfect sense. Get your tickets through the Ticket Smarter mobile app. And again, if you're hearing us in the replay form on podcast or on TuneIn, if you've got friends, relatives trying to go to these games, put them on the Ticket Smarter and the Ticket Smarter mobile app. And this is good throughout the tournament, Saturday, Sunday, wherever you're going to the opening round. Sweet 16 games, Elite 8 games, all the way to the Final Four in Arizona. Use the code as much as you want, COAST20, and you'll take $20 off your order of $300 or more. I was looking at the get-in prices again, $600 get-in price for the Barclays Center. By the way, $300 get-in price in Indianapolis because Purdue is only about an hour away, and they're the 1 seed.
I know a blue fan base in Pittsburgh that's going to have some tickets available.
They're going to have some tickets. Well, get them and save $20 off the order with COAST20, our promo code from Ticket Smarter, the Ticket Smarter mobile app. Sign up. Your purchase is safe and secure. Again, you're going to get the most competitive pricing. Ticket Smarter. Get in the game. Think smarter. Ticket Smarter. Our promo code is COAST20. All right, so we've got one thing left to do. Let's go over Friday. The day will begin, as it turns out for us, as we do this live. Again, if you're hearing us on tape, you know it's beginning later in the early afternoon. Right now, it's beginning 11 hours from when Jason and I are talking. Northwestern and Florida Atlantic, they will be up in the Barclays Center in the 8-9 game with the winner to get UConn later in the day. UConn is going to probably steamroll Stetson. They're favored huge. Yep. Colgate and Baylor is a 14-3 game in Memphis. The UAB San Diego State game in Spokane, amazingly, is a 10:45 local time.
What are they doing?
10:45. Wake up and go play. San Diego State and UAB are on the floor in a 5-12 game. Western Kentucky Marquette are playing in Indianapolis in a 2 seed against a 15 seed. Marquette expected to have Tyler Kolek back for that game. Later in the day, Stetson, UConn early. Also, New Mexico is a 12-5. We saw New Mexico win the Mountain West tournament. That one's in Memphis. Yale and Auburn in Spokane in the afternoon. Auburn, the SEC tournament champs with Bruce Pearl's team. And then Florida and Colorado. That's the 8 early games. Florida and Colorado playing right back in Indianapolis in the 7-10 game, with Florida doing some damage in the SEC tournament. Colorado won a first 4 game. All right, anything strike you from those 8 games real quick in the preview mode?
Interesting to see how Florida will respond lineup-wise and such, with the center not in the game with the broken leg, the first full game with him not available. We'll see if they change their line. That'll be an interesting game with Colorado. And again, I think San Diego State UAB could be interesting. You're going to have Andy Kennedy wants to go up and down, and then we saw San Diego State. They're very much a half court, pounded in the low post. We'll see how UAB handles that. So I think that's and the early start time. How will the early start time affect West Coast, especially? How will it affect UAB? That's basically really early for those guys.
And keep in mind, this is a UAB team that was not in the field until they won the automatic bid on Sunday. It was a winner-take-all game, them or Temple going to get the automatic bid. But Andy Kennedy repeatedly has been in championship game situations, NCAA tournament situations, as a head coach at UAB or a head coach at Ole Miss. Previously, as a player at UAB, he was in the NCAA tournament. Yes. So what will they do with the press? That kind of stuff. Again, San Diego State wants to grind. That is a fascinating 12 versus 5 matchup.
Two upset specials here.
Yeah.
Charleston and Alabama. I know that's the later window. And then you have James Madison and Wisconsin. A
lot of people love that 12-5. James Madison, is that maybe where the upset is coming? That game coming in Brooklyn at the Barclays Center. Wisconsin made the Big Ten championship game of the tournament. James Madison did win the Sun Belt automatic bid. That one's fascinating. Number 1 seed Houston will play Longwood, heavily favored to demolish them in Memphis. TCU and Utah State is the 8-9 game in the Midwest bracket, that one in Indianapolis. St. Mary's and Grand Canyon, another 12-5 game in Spokane. Grand Canyon, the champions of the WAC tournament. St. Mary's, the champions of the West Coast Conference regular season and the conference tournament championship game. That's the late game in Spokane last night. Purdue Grambling, by the way, is up early in the evening in Indianapolis. Duke Vermont in Brooklyn, as well as the 8-9 game Texas A&M Nebraska in Memphis. But what else strikes you from the nighttime session? I really think Duke might be able to make some noise. They're a team to keep an eye on because they've fallen completely out of the picture right now, even though they have pieces. I know I keep saying that and watch Vermont upset them, but I think Duke can make some noise in the South bracket.
They've got a good draw, even if they face Wisconsin I think that's a good matchup of facing Wisconsin, and then you would potentially see Houston in the Sweet 16. And again, I don't love Houston because of their offensive drought potential. So yeah, I'm with you. I think Duke is a live team in that region. I'm a believer in Florida at the bottom of that region. I think that Florida Marquette game now with Kentucky out, the Florida Marquette winner, if both those teams advance, got a great chance to get to the Elite Eight with now that NC State and Oakland are there in the top half of that bracket of that little pod. So I think I think Florida is a sleeper team at the bottom half of that South region as well.
Again, whether you're seeing us on the College Basketball Coast to Coast platforms live on Twitter at CBB Coast to Coast, whether you're seeing us on the YouTube page, College Basketball Coast to Coast, on Facebook, maybe you're seeing us on a delay on one of those outlets. We were doing this in the middle of the night. If you're seeing us on the delay Thursday, we're previewing the Friday games. We're also in podcast form. Wherever you get podcasts, look for College Basketball Coast to Coast, the podcast, and streaming on the College Basketball Coast to Coast YouTube channel. I mean, Jason, we've blanketed every outlet you could find with this. Great stuff staying up with me here in the middle of the night Thursday. Why don't we get some rest and reload for Friday? 16 more games tomorrow, later today as we're doing this on Friday in Brooklyn, Indianapolis, Memphis, and Spokane. It's all going to get underway again today. And then we'll recap some more of this after it's all done late night, Friday night, early Saturday morning. Jason, are we good with the craziness? We saw the Oakland upset. We saw the Duquesne upset. We probably got more upsets coming out of the 16 games Friday, right? Get ready.
The bid Steelers from last weekend are 3-0 in the first round with 2 more tomorrow. 3-0.
Keep an eye.
Mexico and UAB to follow tomorrow.
Yep, double-digit seeds if they can keep winning. Jason, great job. Thank you, my friend. I'm merely TJ Rives. Thank you for finding us here on all the platforms, podcast platform included, as we've been doing this show live. And whether you're hearing us on tape delay, we'll be live frequently on the different platforms on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, podcast form as well, TuneIn streaming channel as well. It's College Basketball Coast to Coast. Enjoy Friday.